Hello, everyone. Very good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to Emagia MasterClass. The topic for today is mitigate the impact of the Great Resignation with AI digital assistants. And we have with us our MasterClass speaker, 𝗠𝗶𝘁𝗶𝗴, our strategic AR advisor and subject matter expert in Emagia Corporation. John, welcome to our MasterClass, and over to you.
All right, Akshay, thank you very much. Good to get together again. I have a very interesting topic today, very current topic regarding the Great Resignation and what can be done to counteract its impact. So we'll start out with an introduction, kind of set the table, and we'll look at the impact of the Great Resignation. And really, we're looking at the impact on order-to-cash and accounts receivable operations. So, a narrow focus here. And then we'll define what are digital assistants. It's a term that's used widely. We want to just try to clarify what we mean by digital assistants. And then we'll put it together. What can digital assistants do about the Great Resignation and the impacts it has on companies? And then we'll share a customer success story. We'll wrap it up with a conclusion and your questions. All right. In terms of an introduction, the Great Resignation's been around for about 2 years, and it's driving substantial turnover in staff, which, staff turnover is always a problem. There's a challenge to retain the workers, and then there's a challenge to replace the workers that have left and getting them up to speed in their new jobs. And of course, these challenges all incur cost. So it's a big deal and a major challenge for organizations. And PwC just came out very recently, this month, with a survey of 52,000 workers in 44 countries. That's a good sample size. 20% of them said they were likely to change jobs in the next 12 months. 20%, 1 in 5. That's large. That's large, and that can be very, very disruptive. Why are they potentially leaving? Well, higher compensation, and particularly in this time of high inflation, that's undeniable. And greater job fulfillment, a better job, what they perceive to be a better job. So there's valid reasons for this Great Resignation, and it's a reality, has to be dealt with. So what are the 3 major challenges that the Great Resignation poses, not only to order-to-cash operations, but other operations as well? Well, one is retaining experienced staff. I mean, ideally, that's what you want to do. You want to retain those experienced people who are proficient in their jobs. When you do have attrition, then you have to attract and hire replacements and train them, which takes time and money. And all of this needs to be accomplished while controlling human resource costs. Clearly, retaining staff, you give everybody a 15% raise and enhance the benefits, you probably should do pretty well with the retention. But what's the cost going to do to your company? Can you afford it? So these are very real challenges. The solutions, well, there's a mix of solutions. A lot of them are HR, human resource driven, but technology and digital transformation of technology can also play a major role. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Just to be clear, the impact of the Great Resignation, it's all about cost. higher compensation, you'll inevitably end up paying your staff, both the ones you retain and the ones you attract. The cost of retaining and recruiting staff will go up. Maybe you enhance benefits to retain staff. Maybe you offer more training opportunities. There's a variety of things you can do besides just raise the compensation, but they all have a cost. And then the other costs manifest themselves really in what I call the learning curve. When you hire a new person, you're training them, they're learning, they're getting experienced, they're climbing that learning curve. Hopefully the quality of their work's improving, the quantity is improving as they become more proficient. But until they get there, you're going to have lower productivity, slower customer response, more mistakes, lower accuracy. And ultimately, this is going to impact your business results, which in the AR management and order to cash arena generally means higher past due, higher DSO, reduced cash flow, higher exposure to bad debt risk. So, and these costs can be substantial. So nothing to try to ignore and just try to make it through. They have to be dealt with. So what's a solution? As I mentioned earlier, there's a number of human resource solutions. But let's focus on technology within the order to cash and accounts receivable management operations. And these apply to other operations as well, but where can technology help? Well, number one is increasing employee retention. Great. How? Well, by reducing the repetitive grunt work within a job. And secondly, by facilitating work from home. Very popular. Very much a condition of employment now. It takes technology to enable work from home. So if you're able to reduce the grunt work and facilitate work from home, that will help your retention of current employees. And when you do lose an employee and you need to recruit a replacement, you'll be able to offer a more attractive job to potential new hires, which is also a plus. And then it will also, the automation, deliver substantial productivity gains, which can offset some of the increased costs you'll be incurring in terms of higher compensation, enhanced benefits, higher recruiting costs. And you can do that by holding staff count steady when you're growing, or quite honestly, you'll probably have some opportunities to reduce staff and cut costs that way. And how can technology do that? What technology can do this? Well, without getting into a lot of detail, it's terms and technologies you've all heard of: artificial intelligence, digital assistants, which primarily can perform what's called intelligent document processing and automate much of the operations in a process. So if you're fully manual, you can automate 70 to 90% of those manual operations using artificial intelligence and digital assistance. And of course, you'll also improve the quality of the work, accuracy, speed, customer response. And this can play a very big role in meeting the staffing challenges of the Great Resignation. So how do we define digital assistants? Well, very much by what they can do. And germane to this conversation, one of the biggest contributions they can make is performing intelligent document processing. Well, what exactly is that? It's extracting data from documents, which are in unstructured formats, and converting them into a structured data file, usually a CSV file, which enables them to be processed downstream in an automated function. Robots, great. They need structured data files to operate. Your ERP can do a lot of this automated processing, but it too works much better with a structured data file rather than just unstructured random data. And this is a very big challenge. Per a Gartner publication recently, 80% of an organization's data is contained in unstructured documents when it enters your company, not in data files, unstructured documents, emails, various files, lockbox communications, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a major role that digital assistants play. And of course, they don't have the same error rate that humans do, but they can also do a lot more. They can engage and assist customers round the clock. And we'll give you a couple examples of that. And how do they do it? Well, a mix of the technology terms that you at least have heard, if not familiar with. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, natural language processing, puts all these technologies together to create some very impressive and useful technology. So, to answer the question posed at the beginning, how can digital assistants mitigate staff turnover, particularly in OTC AR functions? By automating the repetitive data entry tasks, the grunt work, that makes a job unpleasant, uninteresting, and enables you to replace it with higher level, more challenging work, what I would call job enrichment. And what is that more challenging work? Well, more problem solving, enhancing customer service to your big, more important customers, or your problem customers, which is the reality of the situation. And that work is generally, again, more interesting, more creative, and can play a significant role in reducing attrition. All right, let's just give an example here in 4 different very common OTC functions. Credit control. And let's talk about the beginning of credit control when you have a prospective new customer come in, submit a credit app, and you want to vet or investigate their credit worthiness. And when you think about it, the bulk of the work in a credit investigation is gathering all the data. Once it's all gathered and presented to a credit professional, they can usually make a decision in a relatively few minutes as to credit yes or no, how much of a credit limit, that sort of thing. So it's gathering this data and putting it in a usable form where the digital assistants come in and save the bulk of the work in this function. What can a digital assistant do? Well, it can secure an online credit application from new customers, making sure it's complete before it's considered finished. And then obtain the inputs, bank references, trade references, the report from your credit bureau, whether it's Experian, Dun & Bradstreet, whatever. Can also do the important tasks of verifying facts, the business license, tax status, legal entity name and address, and a bunch of other things. And then it can actually go much further. Using parameters that you input, the digital assistants can analyze these inputs and generate a credit score. Then can go even a step further by looking at the estimated monthly requirements, purchase requirements, and recommend a $1 credit limit, which of course you'll have a human being, a credit professional review. So think about it, taking out and automating the bulk of the work in this very important credit function. And my estimate is these duties that a digital assistant can perform can amount to 70 to 80% of the work in the credit vetting function, and maybe higher. Collections. Yeah, you're probably wondering, well, what can a digital assistant do for collections? Call my customers? Well, not call them, but email and engage in an interactive dialogue. So it's not just electronic delivery of a done letter rather than through the postal mail. It's it can respond. So email goes out to a customer. Our records show you owe $22,000. That's over 10 days past due. Can you pay that today? Now, the customer can ignore it. And if they ignore repeated email messages, then they get put on the must call list. But they can reply and say, no, can't. Now then the digital assistant comes back, well, can you pay later this week? No. Can you pay early next week? No. Well, then it gets referred to a collector for a call. But those 2 or 3 inquiries will elicit positive response from a certain percentage of customers, in which case the digital assistants will log the promise to pay in your collection system, follow up on that date, and start to generate better payments from a large segment of your customers. And this is particularly effective on those customers that you never really get around to contacting. Your portfolio is too large for an individual collector. And these are usually your smaller and medium-sized accounts whose past due is significant but not serious. It's not over 180 days, over 120 days. It's somewhere in between there. And it enables you, the digital assistant enables you to contact 100% of your past due accounts every week, twice a month, once a month, whatever the schedule you choose. And that's a huge, huge step forward. And this kind of work can easily perform the work of 1 or 2 collectors, depending on the size of your portfolio. And at least you can guarantee some collection contact with 100% of your delinquent customers. So if you have to put them on hold in the future, and they say, well, geez, we had no idea. Well, wait a minute. Well, we've sent you 11 emails. What do you mean you have no idea? So very, very useful function in portfolio coverage. Cash application. Now, a lot of cash apps is already automated in the ERP and that sort of thing. But the digital assistant kind of takes it to the next level. The important thing here is extracting the remittance detail, the intelligent document processing, putting it into a file, which then can be run through the auto cache function. And think about the challenge of the remittance detail. It comes from in all different formats. Paper attachment to the check. You have to get it from the customer vendor portal. Maybe it's downloaded by your customer in your customer care portal. You get EDI transmissions, Excel files, bank lockbox transmissions, all sorts of formats, which no two are alike. And getting that into an accurate payments file that can be run through your auto cache is a huge benefit and a huge reduction in key punch work that may not be very attractive to most people. And then it can apply customer payments. It can clear the small amounts, apply credit memos to open debits and things like this. And this, when working well, can enable application of almost all your cash the same day it's received and achieving auto cash hit rates over 90%, which is a big productivity driver. And then the last area where it can really help, among others, these are just 4 examples, are deductions. Now, if you look at deductions resolution in 3 stages. The first stage is creating the deduction, understanding why the customer took it, gathering all the supporting information. Second stage is routing that information to the designated resolver, which is usually a human being. And their job is to decide, is the customer right in their deduction, or is the customer wrong? Customer's right, issue a credit memo. Customer's wrong, we route it over to a collector for collection. So the digital assistant does that upfront creation of the deduction and accumulation of the supporting documentation. Routes it to the resolver. Then the resolver does their thing, and the deduction needs to be cleared. Well, here again, the digital assistant comes in, can route the credit memo for approval. Once it's approved, issue the credit memo, match the credit memo to the deduction, match and clear, and resolve the deduction. If the deduction is invalid, the digital assistant routes it to the assigned collector with all the available backup. So digital assistant gets the process going and kind of closes it at the end, which is a good part of the work involved in researching, resolving, and clearing a deduction. So you can see the value here too. All right, so those are 4 examples of order-to-cash sub-processes where digital assistants can make a huge contribution. The more manual the operation, the greater the contribution. Here's a success story from one of our clients. And actually this started before the Great Resignation. It was a company just wanted to improve their operations. And, pretty complex situation here. Global medical product supplier, operating in 30 countries, multiple languages, multiple currencies, multiple banking systems. So fairly complex environment. They implemented Emagia's digital assistance for deductions, cash out, collections, and also analytics. And the value they achieved within a year, well, the deduction resolution cycle time reduced to 5 days. That's really fast. And when you talk about collecting invalid deductions, speed is critical. If you would address a customer after 90 days saying, hey, that deduction you took back in January, it's invalid. You need to pay it back. The chances of collecting that are much less versus addressing it in 5 to 7 days. Auto cash hit rate, big increase, 50 to 80%. Now, there some of you say, well, 80% is not that good. Well, operating in multiple countries with multiple banking systems, multiple currencies, and multiple languages, 80% is pretty good. And then on the collections front, the DSO reduced 7% in 6 months. Now, note I'm not saying 20%, 30%. So this was not about getting big delinquent customers to pay on time. This 7% was getting the smaller customers who were chronically delinquent to accelerate their payments. Also impacts the bad debt risks as well. So, and certainly control the staff cost with all the automation. So a big improvement here for this client. So when we think about the benefits, I've been mentioning them all through. I guess to sum it up, I'd say in terms of the Great Resignation, the chief benefit is an enriched job, a better job, reduce the attrition, improve the productivity and morale. And then, of course, it drives better results in AR, faster response to customers, and the overall quality of the operation includes. So you get a better customer experience, and you free up staff resources for higher level work, or quite honestly, cost reduction. So some pretty impressive benefits there, which can have a big impact in helping you cope with the Great Resignation. So what's our conclusion? Remember, AI-powered digital assistants, they're in use today. They enable job enrichment and work from home, which are big staff satisfiers or demands, you could say. Of course, increasing the productivity, particularly of manual operations, speed up the response to customers, and improve the accuracy. So a lot can be done. A lot can be achieved here, and a lot of these benefits help you counteract the impact of the Great Resignation. All right. Questions. Before we get into the questions, just to let you know that our next masterclass in 2 weeks will be addressing speedy credit decisions, making same-day business-to-business credit decision using AI. Now we have time for your questions.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. We have our first question coming is, how can technology mitigate a human resource problem like staff turnover and replacement? Well,
Again, the key benefits here are automating grunt work, if you understand what I mean by grunt work. And that has a number of benefits, productivity, cost reduction, but also coming back to the theme here of the Great Resignation, job enrichment. It's a better job, a more interesting job, a more challenging job, which for many employees is very important and plays a big role in the job decision. Do I stay or do I leave?
The second question we have, John, is what is a major benefit of intelligent document processing?
You know, when we look at this, it's certainly has the impact on staff retention and attraction and staff costs. But, you know, let's not lose sight of the fact that it drives real results as well. You know, in collections, lower past due, lower DSO, in cash application, faster, more accurate application of the cash, in deductions, you know, lightning fast resolution of deductions compared to predominantly manual process. So there's a lot. And then in the credit vetting of new potential customers, it really eliminates the gathering of information and enables more time to be focused on the actual credit decision.
One more question. Are other benefits to using digital assistants?
Yeah, again, it's the staff benefits, it's the productivity benefits, it's the cost benefits, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. And the other benefit I would point out here is the whole customer service, customer experience benefit. You'll be responding faster, more accurately. And, you know, for those functions that the digital assistants can perform for your customers, you'll give them 24/7, 365 access. which is very important, particularly for your smaller, medium-sized customers who, quite honestly, may not get to their administrative work until nights or weekends. And this 24/7, 365 access is very valuable to them.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining the session today. About the session, please in the chat box, or you can write to us at emagiainfo@emagia.com. And we invite you to our MasterClass at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and we're going to cover the topic on making same-day B2B credit decisions using AI. We request you all to join the session. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Well, and thanks, everyone. Hope you can join us in 2 weeks as well.